I look at it as like I don't have a choice. I have to get to where I need to get, and I have to keep grinding.
It's just fact. Those guys have jobs.
Yeah.
And we have careers.
There's opportunity everywhere. I
Yeah.
control my own destiny. I can pick up the phone and crush it for hours and hours and hours, and that'll turn into income.
My parents pushed me to become more of like a traditional career, like an engineer.
Yeah.
Doctors,
lawyer.
accountants, lawyers. Shout out Timmy. Arshawn Ashari, great loan officer, again, great friend. Arshawn. Hey everybody, thank you guys for tuning in to the episode number 1 of the AY podcast. Today I'm here with a good friend of mine. I've known him now for about 6 years, maybe 7. I don't know. He could fact check me. Arshawn Ashari, great loan officer, again, great friend. Arshawn, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Episode 1. Yeah.
Guys, we're going to start a little bit about Arshawn's background, where he's been, where we're going, where we're going to go.
Yeah.
And probably a little fun at the end of the podcast about a cool little clips, and we'll talk a little bit about market news and things like that. I just want to, again, we're going to just talk about, I guess, a little bit about your background, Arshawn. How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Basically, where did you grow up, and kind of where you went to school and your degrees and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I grew up majority of my lifetime in Orange County, and so I love OC. It's basically all I know for the most part. I plan on living here for a long time if I can. And I went to school, high school, Corona Del Mar. After that, I went to OCC Community College. That basically opened the door for me to be able to get into a great university. So it's either I went to a lower caliber school out of college or out of high school, or I can transfer. So I took the transfer route, ended up going to UCLA, and the whole plan for me originally was to do law, essentially. Get into law school, try to become a lawyer, something in the law field. But, as life goes, things started to pivot and change, and now I kind of find myself basically in the real estate finance field. And I think ultimately it was one of the best things that could have happened for me, and I'm really happy kind of with where everything landed. Yeah.
Nice. So I know that... Look, when I first met you, I know you just finished UCLA. What did you do? What kind of degree was it at UCLA? I believe it was.
Yeah, I got a history degree. Yeah, again, in line with law school. Typically, you see people that graduate college with trying to go into law school. They'll do like political science, history, something along those lines. History was something that allowed me to get to where I wanted to go, take the LSATs and all that, which I took, and. It's just you start working some jobs, you start getting experience, and then things kind of start to change, I believe. And for me, I realized like I really wanted to get into something finance related. Mm-hmm. And so before I actually got into loans specifically, I wanted to actually start like selling securities. They used to call them stockbrokers. Now they're technically like securities dealers. They don't like to use that jargon anymore, after obviously '08 and whatnot. Yeah. So that was what I really thought I was going to do. But after spending some time getting into that, things kind of changed for me. And then one job led to another. And then before I know it, I'm sending out resumes trying to, get into the loan officer industry with no knowledge of it, really no experience. I just thought, hey, this is something that I could really excel in. And I met you, and my life has changed forever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, dude, no, you got a finance degree or something like that, right?
I did a UCLA extension in addition, so I graduated, had my history degree. The problem is it's a struggle to get finance-related jobs at a lot of companies if you don't have any kind of. So you need one of two things. You need the education directly, you need the experience, or the combination of both, right? Which is ideal. Mm-hmm. I didn't have the direct education for it, and I didn't really have the experience. So when I was doing these interviews, I was doing fantastic interviews. They were like, "Oh, we like you," but there's this other guy that has either 5-6 years in finance, or he has the proper education and coursework. So I realized I should just go back and do UCLA extensions, which I did. I got my certification in finance and investment management. So you basically learn everything there is to know about finance, projections, profit and loss statements, balance sheets, just enterprise in general. So that was a game changer. I finished that in 2015. Once I got my certification, now my resume started to make sense. And so I could start getting opportunities, and that actually led me to getting a finance job in Irvine for American Career College and West Coast University at their headquarters. That's where I basically worked, and I was working in a finance position there. And ultimately, that position was coming to an end, and they told me that your options really are we can transfer you over to social media and social media analytics and basically keep your pay the same, but now you're doing that, or like find something else to do, right?
Yeah.
So I think the smart choice is what I made, which is ultimately like, yeah, I'll take that job, because you always want a little bridge between one decision and the other, right? You don't want to say, no, I'm gone and I'm just going to go do this and now I don't have income. I said, no, yeah, I'll take the social media job. I didn't like it at all. I didn't want anything to really do with social media analytics. And so I did it to have steady pay, and that actually allowed me to continue to research and study on where I wanted to take my life and my career. And it was literally during those times where part-time I was doing this, the other times in my off time I was basically just studying, hey, what career and industry would I want to get into? And that's how I honestly just came across mortgages. Looked it up online, saw what the potential is for the income, saw what the education was, what's necessary, did some research on, mortgages, how they work, and then I kind of just jumped all in. That's it. I was like, this is what I want to do. Started just handing out resumes. And again, that's how I met you. Yeah.
But when you got, so you're saying when you got that finance degree, you got that finance certificate, I thought that you were getting it to become a loan officer, but that's not true. You were trying to go into something else.
Yeah, I wanted to be a stockbroker, and I wanted to get jobs. And, I interviewed with companies like Waddle and Reed and Edward Jones. I don't know if you don't remember, I actually did like an Edward Jones shadow training. They wanted to bring me on board, and they give you this like binder with your whole future mapped out, and you just got to start doing door knocking and everything. And so that was exciting. It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. They basically just throw you in the deep end, and they're like, hey, just figure it out. Or like call everyone your sphere of influence, your uncles, cousins, and like they're usually your first deal. Real estate's actually very similar. Usually you see real estate agents that are new, their first transaction is with people that are within arm's length, that they say, arm's reach. Right. And so that's kind of the same thing. They're like, just go basically, milk whatever your circle is. So it was kind of difficult. And before I really jumped in and committed, I was able to come across mortgages and the career of a loan officer, the fact that you can work for a bank. That was actually originally what my sights was set on, was like, I would love to, dress nice, wear a nice suit, go work in like a Wells Fargo or B of A. The guy that clients like yourself, for example, would come in and say, hey, we want to buy a house. Sure, have a seat. Let's go over everything.
That's what you thought the traditional loan officer was.
Yeah, and I know that's an option as well. And so thank God it didn't ultimately end up that way, because what I do is just way more gratifying personally. But that's kind of how I thought it was going to be, and it kind of went in different directions. Again, all for the best.
Right. So you kind of like, you stumbled upon it. You didn't really this wasn't something you kind of set out to, because like I said, I thought it was the finance degree, but no, you kind of were Googling and doing all this other stuff.
Yeah, the finance degree was really just to get a little bit of like street cred, kind of how they say, so that it made sense when I send my resumes to companies like Waddle and Reed and all these other ones. And I interviewed with a handful of finance companies. There's finance firms in Newport Beach and Irvine that I would go to, and I would get to like the last round, and they would be like, it's between you and this guy. I mean, this guy has like a book of business, or he's highly referred from
finance firms,
Yeah, and they do like investment management and portfolios, things like that.
Those are commission jobs?
Yeah, with salary. Those were. So the companies that are like stockbrokers strictly, like in Edward Jones, they're typically just like commission loaded. And so they're like, hey, not door knock, which I had to do a lot of door knocking. We went to LA with my mentor at the time, and we were doing door knocking, just trying to get people to kind of want to invest with you, give them pamphlets, you give them the sweet talk. But the other companies, they give you a base, and they'll give you essentially a commission on top. And so it seemed nice, but yeah, I mean, it's a grind. It's a different type of a grind. It's a different type of a grind that it's very exhausting, and I think it's not made for a lot of people. Same with loans. I don't think it's made for a lot of people. I think there's different ways you can be a loan officer, like we talked about, being a broker versus being a bank person versus being a retail loan officer like the Rockets and Loan Depots. They're different, and I think everyone fits into a specific category based off of their work ethic and their personality.
Yeah, no. And so so long story short, like we talked about, you ended up becoming a loan officer. Mm-hmm. But to become a loan officer, I was kind of the first person that you found, and I took you under my wing and all that good stuff. But could you share a little bit about kind of how you found me, or how you found us, and how you...
No, absolutely. So as I was doing my research into mortgages and loans, I was like, you know what? I've learned what I need to learn. Oh, let me also say this. And as you know, my mother's been a real estate agent for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And my dad was also a licensed real estate agent. They've done both in the real estate field plus flipping houses. My dad does contracting. He actually still to this day has a construction company and everything that he does on the side. So that background knowledge really helped because I never had any particular interest in the real estate side myself. I did not really like the idea of showing people homes, driving them around, and like having to do the whole song and dance. It's very interpersonal and it's very time consuming, and it just wasn't like what I was in love with. I love homes, looking at homes, but the grind of being a real estate agent and being so competitive and farming and doing listings and getting like the staging, that was like a lot. And so my mom already does it. And so I was like, I love numbers. I love math, I love money. I'm really good with it. I can break down money for people. So it couldn't have been a better match because I basically got what I liked out of the real estate side, but with the numbers side that I loved from if I was to be in the securities business.
Right.
You merge that together, and that's essentially what a broker, a loan officer is. And so to not digress too much, as I started looking up companies, I basically just came across local branches, local brokers, and I found where you worked, Primestone Mortgage, and I'll never forget the reason why I got so excited. And I
shout out Primestone.
Yes, shout out Primestone, my original. I got my feet wet at Primestone. Yeah, absolutely. And so what I specifically remember as I was sending out these resumes and all that, the network capitals and all these people, a lot of these are revolving door companies that I was like, hey, they'll take me on because I'm sharp, I'm bright, my resume looks good, and I have the hunger, and you can sense it. And I was like, I'll get in somewhere. But when I came across Primestone, what was different was it was a smaller broker shop specifically of independent loan officers that basically I can tell right away it's almost like the way a real estate structure is. I'm not like a headset person where I'm being pumped leads and there isn't like a triage and a hierarchy of where things go. It was a different structure, which I loved. It's kind of like, hey, you can make great money, but you're going to be self-motivated. You have to handle everything on your own, but the income is great. You can set your own schedule and you're responsible for your own life. Kind of like how an agent is. Yeah. So I really like that about Primestone, and so I was really excited when I was able to talk to, our old boss at the time, and he basically, his name is Paul. He gave me a call and kind of vetted me over the phone, and I was like, hey, I'm hungry. This is what my credentials are. This is what I'm looking to do. I told him I wasn't licensed. I was like, I just want the opportunity. Yeah. And he basically actually mentioned you on the phone. He's like, yeah, I have a guy, Andrew, that's actually looking for someone to bring like on a team. Let me set you guys up. And then next thing I know, I get a phone call from you, and I specifically remember that you did like a little bit of vetting over the phone to kind of just feel me out. Right. And I'll never forget, you were kind of telling me like, don't quit your day job because it's a grind. Like, don't quit what you have now because it's hard to make money as a broker. Right. And then you said, if you really want to, you take it serious, give me a call back and like come in. I hung up the phone. I remember 5 minutes later, I'm like, I'm obviously going to call this guy back. Like, I want to go in. He's probably trying to make sure that I'm taken care of, and maybe he's worrying for me. Yeah. But I was like, I'm all in on this. I don't have a career. I need a career, and I want to make some money. And so, I called you back, and you brought me in, and we did that interview. First ever interview.
No, it was great. It was great. No, I remember that. And like the thing that what happened between me and you in the mortgage business, by the way, that's actually one of my biggest pet peeves in the mortgage business is that more guys like me that had a little bit more, that had more experience than you, they're not willing to do it basically for free. Yeah. You know what I mean? A lot of guys, they won't take somebody under their wing, so to speak.
100%.
And if they will, they'll shove them under the rug and they won't really like pay a lot of attention to them. Honestly, I think it was just kind of fate. You came at a certain point in my life when I was just kind of ready to have somebody there.
I think you were. I think you were at a position too where you were doing really well. You were growing, and your book of business was excellent. And I think you were kind of at a point where you were ready to kind of pass on things that you've learned to somebody else and kind of grow out a little bit of a team.
But like I said, it's not easy.
It's not easy at all.
Hard to find. Like, because when I got into the business, I wish I had somebody that. Oh yeah, I could have done that with, and I was the one. I was thrown to the wolves. I wasn't given anybody to. Nobody really helped me out at. So I'm glad. I made basically more mistakes than you've made, and then
100%.
And then me and you basically, me and you bounced around a little bit.
Yeah.
We really just went to one major retail lender, and it just
to try something new, essentially. You know what I mean? It was like let's try to go retail and just see, because life as a broker is cool. But like you said, I think at that time too, you were in a spot where And you're always, you're the kind of guy where you're always learning. Like, you're always down to learn. You're never complacent. You're always trying to grow. And I remember, because you're doing so well, most people would be like, there's no reason for me to change anything about it. But you're like, I want to see what's on the other side of this.
Because those guys are really killing it.
Really, because they're heavy volume based. They're not commission based as much.
And they're just...
And the farming and the marketing, like, it's all dialed in.
I wanted to be a part of... I just wanted to see how it was to be part of, because I've always been a part of, like, smaller companies.
Yeah.
I bounced around a lot before Primestone as well.
Like little broker shops here and there?
Yeah, like little, just kind of smaller companies in general. And then basically I was like, you know what? I want to go play with the big boys and get all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
And what we found out, or what I specifically found out, is the fact that the bells and whistles, they didn't help me generate anything. It was still mostly all me.
Right.
And we had to sell higher rates.
The margin.
Because I'm working at a retail company, and retail companies have managers, and they have vice presidents, and they have a ton of other departments.
Just an expensive infrastructure that you have to pass down to your borrower. Yeah. The fees, there's additional admin fees. There's additional fees. The rates are higher. And then, like you said, the leads that they give you essentially come out on the back end at a future cost. You know what I mean? So it's like, they'll give you leads, but then you're making less rebate, so it kind of washed itself out. Plus your W-2.
But you know what? It helped me, and it helped me in the sense that I was running my own profit loss, my own P&L in my own branch. So we knew. So at that point, I knew that I was like, dude, we're paying rent, we're paying everything. So at that point, I was like, I knew that we're making enough money to start our own company.
Yeah.
So that's when we were at a little spot in Irvine. Right off the 405, and we're like, we're going to just start our own company.
Industrious, I'll never forget,
Yeah, we were in Industrious, and we ended up starting, Fast Action Mortgage, the company that, obviously, that we're still here today and still around, obviously.
Yeah.
And, and that was an easy transition. The retail company, I don't want to mention, they actually filed for bankruptcy, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, they filed for bankruptcy. During the whole, probably 6 months ago.
Like Chapter 11,
They filed for Chapter 11. They owe a ton of people money. They owe their creditors. They they lost a lot of loan officers.
That's funny, because we're working for them. I mean, they couldn't have been more on top of the world, as they say.
Yeah, they were.
Everything was like, we're killing it. They were spending like crazy. Remember, they were building out their technology. They were spending so much money on like the originating software. Everything was getting revamped.
Yeah. So I just want to give you credit. You stuck with the process, man. You stayed with Fast Action Mortgage.
I did, and I agree with you on what you're saying about the retail side, that you're happy you did it. I completely agree. I think it's really great to be able to be well versed in something and see both sides of the business, because it did allow for me and you and the people we were working with at the time to see what it's like to be on the retail side, the ins and out, because it just makes us way better loan officers, but just entrepreneurs. And it makes us better salesmen, because now as we're brokers again, we can explain to clients and other people, hey, this is exactly how that side works, or what you're getting into and how it all works. So you have something to compare it to, and you actually know what you're talking about. You're not just making things up.
No, totally.
So it was a great learning experience, and
and like you said, I thought it was much needed, Actually, starting Fast Action Mortgage, there wasn't a lot of risk because the P&L was already set, and my clientele, or my book of business, so to speak, was already set. So transitioning to become our own company, it's just paperwork and licensing and fees and insurance, all that stuff. But I knew that we had the basic structure in order to do it.
Yeah.
And actually, it was because those retail lenders, they didn't provide the support that I thought that they would provide. I realized it was pretty much all me.
Yeah, and they all kind of, and as this, you can kind of echo on this, but don't they all kind of, at the end of the day, sell you on similar stuff? Because I remember when you were almost shopping around to see where we would go. And I would ask you, hey, what's up? And you'd be like, it's between this lender, this lender, this lender. And they all just throw out very similar perks. And I think one lender was we'll get you front row seats every hockey game or something crazy.
I probably interviewed with maybe 10 major retail
it's
banks,
all just
across the United. These guys are all based across the United States. Anyway, I ended up choosing them, and like I said, it was a great transition point, and it was a great way for us to start Fast Action Mortgage.
And I think going through that experience allowed us to understand that starting Fast Action Mortgage would be so successful, right? Because we already knew what the profit and loss and the margins and all that looked like, right? So since we had the idea of the infrastructure, you're very seasoned in the broker's infrastructure with how Primestone was. So we looked at each other and we're like, dude, why don't we just start our own thing where we can be brokers and correspondent direct lenders, handle everything in-house. The margins change so we can directly give our clients better interest rates. Our service can be top-notch. We already knew that they're fluffing their interest rates. So totally. The whole picture just made so much more sense, and I mean, look how successful it can become. You know?
Yeah, of course. And I know not to change the subject a little bit, but I know becoming a loan officer, kind of going back to that. Look, I was mentioning this to you, but we both come from Middle Eastern backgrounds. So like, when you're a Middle Eastern guy, or actually immigrants in general, but my parents pushed me to become more of like a traditional career, like an engineer,
doctors,
lawyer, accountants, lawyers,
dentists. That would work. Either of these things.
My dad's a dentist. My brothers actually both went down that like kind of more a traditional career path.
Yeah.
And, I was looked at a little different, and I had a lot of pressure on me, and I just figured, I already know that you kind of went through the same thing. So, kind of tell us a little bit about like your upbringing in that sense, like were your parents pushing you to a certain way? And
well, first of all, keep in mind all the careers you just said. What's one major thing they have in common, right?
It's education.
It's education also, and with the status, but they're W-2 jobs for the most part. They're steady. And I think a lot of immigrant parents ideally think that you should come, get proper education, and land a very steady and high-paying job. They love the $275 W-2 because it's consistent.
There's nothing wrong with that, though.
No, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's my parents loved security, like especially my mom. I think that was another element to why they're so happy with that, is because they know once you're a lawyer, once you're a doctor, engineer, you have a career path for life. It's not like, I want to grow up and just become like some entrepreneur with uncertainties. You could file for bankruptcy multiple times. You could spend $1 million on a business and gross $300K. So it's like that level of security, I think, is a big factor with a lot of immigrant parents. And then also obviously the status. But for me, particularly with my parents, I would say between the two, my dad has been a very successful self-employed businessman his entire life, so I never got the doctor lawyer talk from my dad at all. I think all he ever wanted from me was just be successful, to be happy and not to have to work as hard as him, because he just worked like a dog. He ran multiple, even to this day, runs multiple businesses, works literally like an animal, and you have to keep the engine churning. It is what it is. It has to keep going. So my mom, on the other hand, she was a little bit more about get a good title, get a good job. So she was a lot more, it wasn't really doctor as much. It was always like more law school. Like go be a lawyer or go be like an engineer. My mom has a civil engineer degree from USC. She wanted something like that where it could really pay off.
These are from her own personal experience.
Exactly. And she also would always push like master's degree, like go to master's school, right? Isn't that, you always hear that. That's the typical thing. And
I got my master's.
And we're talking also like 15, 20 years ago where like getting a master's really meant something. The whole trajectory was like you go to school, you do well, and then you go and you get like an MBA. And then a miracle job falls out of the sky that pays you $100,000, $110,000. At that time, you have a great life. You can have kids, buy a house. House prices were deflated, not like they are now. It's just not like that anymore. So it was really hard over the years for me to try to explain to my mom more so, again, because my dad understands all this, to explain to my mom like master's doesn't really mean anything. I can go and get $100,000 of debt going to a great Loyola, Pepperdine, any of these schools, USC, UCLA for a master's. I'm not even guaranteed a job. I've talked to many people that have master's degrees that are making $75,000, $80,000 a year, and they're in debt, or less, or they're 4 or 5 years in and they're at 120. Well, you do the math. You take 60-65% of that home. You're not making much money. There's a net factor there. It's not just about gross. So that took some time, but that's kind of how my upbringing was. There's a little bit of split of difference there, but again, like my dad really was all about like work hard, use your time wisely. Don't make the same struggles I had to make. Doesn't matter. He didn't care what I did. Yeah. Just be successful, be able to be comfortable, because life is a struggle. He never wanted me to struggle. And they say, money can't buy you happiness, or everyone says it's not all about the money. But I believe from where he's coming from, it's like money can buy you security. It can help raise your family, your kids, help you against medical problems, all these things. So to that extent, money does buy you literally comfort and happiness.
I mean, money does buy you a lot of things.
Yeah, no, sure. Absolutely. Yeah,
but,
of course.
But you were mentioning your mom and stuff. Dude, both of our parents, they actually were the first internet generation. They're before the internet. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. They're like before the technology generation.
Yeah, basically.
You know what I mean?
So
email and like.
I just feel like the internet has completely changed everything.
Yeah.
And you're a guy that has like advanced degrees, and now you're a loan officer. So kind of going back to education, In your opinion, what do you have great degrees. So do you think that education has helped you? Would you, to your children, if they wanted to be entrepreneurs, if they wanted to go into business, what do you think about education now in 2023, 24 and beyond in terms of, because the internet is like literally like we're on YouTube University, we're on
Wikipedia, Google,
everything is online. So, but I'm not. I mean, what's your opinion?
I personally still believe in the traditional educational system. I would like my kids to go to college, and it's not about going to college to get the job. I think that the personal development and behavioral development that you get from going to college and being around your peers, being around people, being around same sex, opposite sex, being around professors, that camaraderie, that relationship building, that is very important for the development of people. Because as you know, lately, we're starting to get some strange people, right, that are just coming around that like don't have communicative skills. You know, they're not personable. They're stuck behind a keyboard, but face to face, they can't even handle certain conversations because they just avoid people all in general. They're either stuck gaming at the house, they don't leave the house, everything's online, everything's Zoom. So people, I think, are just losing that ability. And I think it's important to go and have fun and enjoy yourself. I had an incredible time in college. Some of the best times of my entire life. Like, I still, to this day, talk to my UCLA friends. We were texting yesterday, talking about trying to go to Mammoth. Awesome. And they're all wildly successful. You know, it's a band of brothers. I was in a fraternity. You know, they all have incredible jobs. You graduate, your alumni takes care of you. You can ask them for jobs. I was part of the UCLA Alumni Network, so I would try to go to different events there, and you can meet employers, shake hands. Mm-hmm. I think there's so many benefits. Unless you're going to be some kind of like tech coder, or your dad runs some crazy successful business that you can just loop right into, maybe you don't need college, but I personally still think it's very important. And I think if you can transfer, that's the move. The 4-year path, I think, is dying hard financially. You can transfer, you're going to save a ton of money, well over $200,000. Right? I did that. My brother did that. We saved our parents a lot of money. You know, I do well, so I think it paid off really well for my parents in the end. And so I think transferring is the first thing that you can do, because also community college has a really unique blend of individuals. There are people still in between trying to find themselves, you know, and so you're going to get the really smart people, and then you're going to get people that are kind of, they don't take life too seriously, but you're still mixed into all of it. So I actually think like a lot of my personality actually developed from like the OCC days. I went to Orange Coast College. Then when I was able to go to UCLA at that point, I was 20. I basically enjoyed from 20 to 22 at UCLA. I already was developed. I knew how to handle different people of different ages, just different groups of people. I knew how to talk to my professor. I knew how to talk to everybody, get along with people. So that's why I personally think the traditional route is affordable, and I do think there are some exceptions for people that just don't necessarily need it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I think that it's needed for most people, and like you said, the people that don't need it and are still crazy successful, they're definitely like an exception to the rule. For me, it was a maturation process. It helped me, like, I'm not going to say I learned a ton in college. Unfortunately, you know, I don't know if I did, but for me, I matured a lot. It kind of helped me grow up, and like you said, hanging out with my peers and kind of doing that thing. And now, kind of speaking a little bit about your peers. Now you're living in, you know, you're living in a very like affluent area. Yeah. You're living in an area with a lot of like top 1% people in the whole United States. Yeah. You think that's kind of helped motivate you, kind of just being around like really successful people? I mean, you know, you're going to restaurants with like Ferraris in the valet lot and all that kind of stuff. For sure. So these people are like, you know, like even going to the grocery stores. They're animals, man. These people, like the people that live around like the Newport Beach, Irvine area, or even parts of like Laguna Beach, like these areas, these people are crazy successful, and they all have just such unique ways of getting money, because you have the older money, you have the new money. It's not just all finance and real estate. That's a lot of it, but there's just all kinds of unique ways. Like I know a guy that does like all the grids for like, what is it? It's like solar. You're talking about? No, like he does the actual grid, like lighting, like technologically, like from his computer for like this entire area of like China or something, and he makes so much money that he doesn't even know what to do with it, basically. Like he basically just has this crazy niche job that has an unbelievable pay, because very few people can handle what he's doing. He's so technologically advanced, like I will never get to that level. And he lives in Crystal Cove area. You know? So that's a guy that you'll meet there. You know, you're not going to typically just meet
minimum or middle wage earners there. They're going to either be really high W-2 income, or it's going to be usually entrepreneurs, people that run med spas, people that run their own clinics, they run their own real estate firms, things like that. And so to answer your question directly about the motivation, absolutely, because I'm entrenched in it. You know, it's reflective in every bill I have to pay, everywhere I go, everywhere I shop, people I'm associated with. So it's either I can't cut it and I can't afford to live in my surrounding and I have to move to a different area, which would be fine if it came down to that, or I can grind, bust my ass, and choose to stay and live in a place that I love and I call home and that I want to live in. So I look at it as like I don't have a choice. I have to get to where I need to get, and I have to keep grinding, especially while I'm still young, and to be able to, you know, be able to live here. Because, it's unaffordable.
Your area motivates you. It doesn't, like, demotivate you or, like,
Not at all. No, I don't look at it like, this and that. No, there's opportunity everywhere. I control my own destiny. I can pick up the phone and crush it for hours and hours and hours and hours a day, and that'll turn into income if I you know. 100%. Yeah, I think everybody can, to some point, controls their own destiny. It's all about how bad do you really want it. And so absolutely I mean, my whole family lives around here. My friends, all my best friends, they all live within 5 miles from me. I live 3 street lights away from my parents' house. My partner's parents live right there as well in Irvine. They're all around here. So for me, it's like I want to make sure I can stay here for the long run, hopefully have a family here, and I just have to keep grinding. You know, there's no stopping.
I know you were just talking about, you know, staying here for the long run. Unfortunately, like the last couple of years, a lot of like people in the real estate business and, you know, loan officers in the mortgage business, a lot of people just haven't made it, basically. You know what I mean? So kind of like, what do you think about those people? Why do you think you've been able to, because dude, it's been bad for a lot of people. You know, I thank God that, you know, we've made it and we're doing well and you know, all that good stuff. But what's your secret, basically? What's kept your business alive, basically?
I think the biggest thing is adapting. That's how I stayed alive personally. I could have just folded over when rates started climbing, you know, from the 2s and 3s to the 8 and 9%, and I would have just had no income, and like most people, and just had to go find a different job. A lot of people had to leave the industry either willingly or forcefully, and they went and found something else. I could have been one of those, but you have to adapt to the times. And the most common sense thing, and obviously you as being a great mentor of mine, and always just sharing like what is smart to do in these times. And of course you have the experience, you've been through the roller coaster more than me. I started in 2017, you've been doing it a lot longer. For you to say, hey, this isn't a refi time, you can't be a refinance type of a loan officer or broker, you have to start building relationships. Build relationships, get into purchases, because at the end of the day, purchases are typically recession and rate proof. People need to buy a house, they have to buy a house. They don't care what the rate is.
You need shelter.
And I tell my clients every time, I say, you marry the house, you date the rate. And they understand that right away. The house, having title of that house is important. Rates come and go, you can always change it. Maybe you have a 2%, you're in debt problems, you have to do a cash out refi, now you have a 6%. That rate's gone. Maybe you have a 6%, rates drop, we'll get you back down to a 3 or 4. Now that rate's gone. So the house is the house. And the house usually keeps appreciating as things grow every 10 years, and as you pay down the debt, you're creating a larger gap. So adapting and pivoting to the purchase model is how I was able to survive, and I did significantly better this year during the most tumultuous times than I did even last year, because I shifted my business. And now what it does is it sets me up for 2024, 2025, 2026, when you have this period where you're not in the 2s and 3s, you're not in the 8 and 9, you're right in the middle. And so now there's purchase and refi business galore. Like, everyone's crawling back in. And people that maybe racked up so much debt and are in trouble, they can now consolidate, and they're happy, and they would love to call you or take your call to go from their 2s and 3s to a 5 and 5.5, knowing it's not an 8 anymore. So that is just going to be wildly successful for people that put themselves in that position for the future. And I've always heard this from a lot of successful entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you have too. They say you make your most money during the hardest times, because there's opportunity everywhere.
Because people are
gone. People don't know what to do. They're frantic. They're out of cash.
You're filling in spots that people
exactly.
Are
and you're available. You're filling spots. You're being creative. You're taking advantage. Just look how successful a lot of the podcast people were during COVID. There was a need to be filled there, and they swooped in, and those people grew 10, 100x just during the COVID times, because everyone was stuck at home to their screens, so they were providing entertainment value. People weren't even leaving their houses. So, I want to check in and see what Andrew's talking about. Let's see what the real estate and, loan market is discussing right now. So that was a brilliant idea. Now, they have hundreds of thousands of followers. They make tons of money because they were able to capitalize on the hard time. So I think that's exactly, to answer your question, how I was able to get through it and persevere. And then the other aspect of it, besides being adaptable, is just really wanting it. I don't look at any other career as something that's enticing for me at this point in my life. And I think a lot of people, they have side jobs and side careers that creep into their mind that take the focus away from their actual money maker.
That's because they don't give 100%.
They don't give 100%.
But you know what's funny about these people?
They don't give 100%.
I've talked to these people, and I'm asking that same question: are you giving 100% effort? And a lot of people, they're honest. You know what? No.
No. Yeah.
So
no.
then you know what? This might not be for you. Maybe you don't like it. There's something you don't like about it because you're not giving it 100% effort. And there's people out there that are doing well, and the reason you're not doing well is because your effort's not.
Yeah, or
there.
you're holding back, or something's causing you to hold back, or like you're not passionate for it. Because you have to have a level of passion. I'm not like, I don't wake up and just like pray to like mortgage gods or anything like that. But the level of passion is that man. I love helping clients. I love making sure that they understand how the process works, and with providing them excellent service and excellent education, they will continuously call me, and it works like clockwork. Like my goal is to never work with a client and just hope that it never turns into another business or another phone call. Right. I want their friends, their family, when they buy more houses, I tell them, look, this is one of many that we're buying you, and if it's the second or third house, call me for the fourth and fifth house. Right. That's the whole point of this business. It's relationship building just as much as it is the commission side of it.
Right.
And so, I think people don't give 100%. I think they have side jobs maybe that are holding them back, and it's just not going to cut it, because the sad truth is that we're not in a time right now where there's lay down money. And as you know, 2018, 2019, going into 2020, 2021, this was lay down money time. You could jump right in, make $250,000, no problem, and walk away. It's not like that anymore. You got to know what you're saying. You got to know what you're doing, and people want to be able to work with you because there's less choices, but there's hungry brokers like me that are going to take that business from you.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of like led me into my next kind of question. Man, a lot of people are making a lot of money in this business, and when I first got into the business, I heard about all these guys making crazy money. Like you just said, $250,000. Even guys making way more than that.
Way more.
I know guys that were making six figures a month.
And
they were in this business, but people see all that money and they want to hop into the business. So, I mean, to an unseasoned guy or a guy that hasn't been in the business for that long, that's not normal. People do not make that kind of money.
Right.
Normally, at least, it's super super rare. So, what do you think? What do you think is much harder about this business that people don't realize? Because again, bro, they see the money. Yeah. They see all this. Some guys are driving. There's particular guys on social media with the Ferraris, and they're mortgage guys, real estate guys, and they're flashing. I don't know if they're renting them or what. But what?
Probably they're like in a car club, so they just get these new cars.
What's harder about this business? Yeah. Why do people quit? What don't they realize about this business? Basically, that they think anybody can do it. Basically.
Yeah, I think if you're on the broker side, getting the business is the problem. That barrier of entry to getting a steady book of business. You have to realize how difficult it is to build a big enough or fat enough pipeline to where you're funding something, closing an escrow every single month. Most successful agents do.
Real estate agents.
Yeah, successful real estate agents do a handful of deals a year, and there's a lot of successful brokers that just do a handful of deals a year because you can get by. But to really stay successful, it's very hard to just fill the pipeline. If you're on the retail side where you're doing much more volume, I think the difficult...
You're talking about the call center...
The call center guy. So I always like to break up into the broker side, like what we do, where, we get larger commissions, but everything's 100% on us. We control our own book of business. It's much more difficult.
Your destiny type
there's no leads. Nobody's providing us leads. We're paying for everything. We're running a corporation. I have a corporation. You have a corporation. I'm an employee of my own corporation. Yeah. But on the retail side, I think the difficulty is quality of leads, trying to build rapport. Because think about it, if you call someone from a company that's on TV, like a Rocket or a Guaranteed Rate, these major companies, it's hard to build a heavy rapport with them because they're more so focused just like on that name, give me the rate, give me this, and they know that they're going to talk to 5 or 6 people before their loan closes. It's not like us, where you just talk to us and maybe our assistant, and that's like it. It's much more personable. Right. So for them, I think trying to build that rapport and getting good quality leads is shocking because they'll get in. How many times have you heard, dude, all I get are garbage leads. The company's giving me garbage leads. None of them convert. Well, low FICO. I can't close.
That's because they're lead guys. And
they're lead guys. Yeah.
Look, I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
but I remember when I first started talking to you, and I know you got guys that work at these so-called call centers. You got some of your friends doing things like that.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I almost think it's just fact. Those guys have jobs, and we have careers. The reason we have careers is because you have a book of business.
Right.
You have something to go. That guy's kind of tied to his desk at whatever ABC company he's at.
Yeah. And he's tied to the leads, and he's tied to the market. Leads.
If they shut off what he has going on, he doesn't have anything going on.
It's over, yeah.
So, yeah, he does have a job. I'm not saying he's not skilled. He's probably skilled. He can sell. He can do all that stuff.
Right.
But he doesn't have a career. He can't go to another company. He won't. You know that. I mean, guys like me and you, I'm recruited by other companies because I'm bringing them business.
Literally, yeah.
You working at John's call center, you don't provide anything. You have a job. You follow protocol and their guidelines and their all their.
Yeah, basically, what you provide in that sense is your ability to close. So your selling point is, look, I close hundreds of deals at this place. You give me the leads, you give me the software, I can close it for you. But that's where you're limited. So it's completely different. And for us, they call us and they say, hey, come, because like you said, they'll hire us, and within a month, loans are in the pipeline. Loans are being submitted instantly, and they're making great margin. We're making our commission. So it's completely different, kind of the value we provide. Also, like, a lot of call center people and people that work at major retailers, they're limited in the education they have because a lot of them will only focus on very few mortgage products. I just do like FHAs, or I just do VAs, or throw some conventionals. But it's like, as you know, with us, we do every type of financing there is related to 1 to 4 unit, sometimes even 6 to 8 unit residential properties. So our experience 100%. Is unbelievably more diverse, and we have familiarity with all the different types of mortgage products.
We're going to talk a little bit about market news and kind of what's going on with the market right now.
Okay.
I recently, let me turn to it, but Bank of America just released a survey basically right now because a lot of people are waiting to buy homes. Yeah. Rates are too high. I don't want to buy. I can't afford it. Well, the loan limits just went up.
Right.
So Fannie Mae's already released that between, October last year and September this year. So the last 12 months, we've seen a 5.5% increase in homes nationwide.
Right.
So that's why the loan limits went up. Yeah. Loan limits also went up 5.5%. So, I mean, and then Bank of America, they just did a study that, basically now that rates have been high for so long, I guess in the beginning of the year in April, 85% of people were kind of quote unquote waiting for the market and waiting for a better deal or better rates. Now it's only 62% of people are waiting for better rates.
Yeah.
So basically it's less. They're reporting that less. So do you think that people are just getting like used to the rates and they think they're just falling behind? Kind of what's your opinion on people that are basically they've changed their mind. Now they're kind of like ready to buy. They're like over it. Like we can't wait forever kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I think it's a combination of they're getting used to it. Plus they're seeing, okay, house prices didn't drop the way they thought they were.
Right.
Because we all know people that are sitting there. Honestly, even me myself, and probably even you, where we're like, hey, these house prices might come down 30, 40%, all the scares that you're seeing in media and stuff, and these economists saying like house prices are going to tank. It could be another 2007, 2008 kind of a situation. But I think since that hasn't happened, house prices in some areas have barely come down. In some areas, they're honestly continuously going up. We're still getting a lot of above asking price offers accepted with like no contingencies. So it's still competitive, and now they're used to the rate, and so seeing rates give a little bit of relief, they're saying, hey, I can't sit around and wait longer. I need my money to work with me. I need to put my money into something. Or, hey, we have a kid coming up. Or, hey, we need to move into something I can't rent anymore. So now they're basically just opting to just jump back in the market. So I think it's a combination of those two factors. And then I also think with the fact that they raised the loan limits a pretty good amount, to be honest, because we kind of thought maybe they wouldn't even raise them, or maybe they raise them a couple thousand. That's a lot. So that kind of tells you that they even think that house prices are going to continue to go up. Naturally, as they start doing rate cuts and we get into election and things, as rates drop, competition for those homes will just keep skyrocketing. So they're kind of telling you, hey, like, housing market is strong. It's not going to just collapse all of a sudden. And a lot of people that are buying are just holding. There isn't much inventory. It'd be a different story if everywhere you looked or every community there was a ton of houses for sale. Inventory is minimal. So all that factors into a prosperous 2024, 2025, and people trying to take advantage of the fact that they can get locked in instead of 7, 8%. Maybe I can get 5, 6%. And I think they're kind of jumping off the sidelines for that.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, no, I totally agree with you. The loan amount limits are going to play a major factor in the market.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, now in Orange County, I think it's about 1.150 million now that you can buy. So
which is insane to avoid a jumbo.
Yeah, it's getting scary. I mean, it's getting scary right now. I know. Talking about the loan limits and things like that. I know. I mean, affordability has been a huge topic.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, like, where you're from or where I'm from. I mean, we're pretty much in the same area.
Honestly, anywhere. LA, OC, parts of San Diego, San Francisco. These parts are just brutal.
What do you think about the affordability? What do you think about, what do you think Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or do you think the government? People are waiting for, like, government bailouts to, like, get into homes. I don't know what the government could do or what the mortgage business could do. I've thought about certain things like a 40 and 50-year mortgage, but that's just amortized way too thin. And then there's no principle.
100-year mortgage.
Yeah, there's no.
You hear Grant Cardone talk about that? He was like, he guarantees like there will be a 100-year mortgage. But you know what? I didn't mean to cut you off, but on that topic, I actually do think in this time a 40-year mortgage is actually very necessary. And I know I've mentioned it to you, like we have like the teams chat with like the other LOs and stuff. And I think a 40-year mortgage, this is the time to have it. Because you do have a combination of high interest rates, house prices are astronomical. And the reality is like people just really can't afford the payment and the payment shock that comes with going from a renter to the buyer or going from a buyer even to another buyer. Like for example, for me, like if my payment had to triple to get a house of reasonable value for I want to live, that's a lot. But again, in a 40-year, what happens is your debt to income calculation is a little bit softer because I can qualify now. It's amortized longer, and the payment in itself can be longer. So yeah, it takes forever to own the home, but most people don't really end up paying their house off anyways. You use it as a tool, as an investment tool. You keep borrowing against it. You can rent it out. I don't really care to ever like own the home outright. I look to as an investor to keep cash flowing off of it and leverage against it, and you let tenants kind of pay it down the line. So I do think it would be really great for a 40-year mortgage to come out and have the same pricing and the same standards as a 30-year right now.
Yeah, but that's and you were just talking about investments. I mean, we need homes. We need primary homes. That's number one. Mm-hmm. And then number two, I disagree a little bit because if you've done the calculations for a 40-year versus a 30-year and you look at the amortization schedule, I've done it for fun sometimes, dude, the payment doesn't go down very much. You're talking about like a couple $100, but then most of it's going to interest because it's amortization schedule. So now you're paying mostly interest on your payment instead of for 12 to 15 years. You're now up to like 25 years.
It's front loaded with interest, so
but it's 25 years front, so you're really not paying anything. I mean, I feel like there has to be another way.
Unless they restructure how the 40-year is in terms of like in terms of how the split
in terms
is,
of amortization
or pricing. Like you get a 40-year, your pricing's even better, or something to incentivize people to get it.
Or maybe a
because the problem is it's hard to qualify unless you go alternative documentation where you kind of putting together the income or whatnot, or you run a really successful business. A lot of people that can afford to make the payment can't even qualify, or they don't have a business, so they're kind of shit out of luck. What do? You have to keep getting co-signers. I got to find friends and family to jump on board just for me to buy a house, because renting doesn't have a DTI necessarily. You can rent without having to provide all of this stuff. They don't.
A lot of time they're getting more strict.
They are getting more strict, but you can find something. They're
100%.
there. Yeah, and good credit is a game changer for rent. Sometimes they'll let you qualify with just off of having like a 740 FICO. So it's just tough, man. It is a tough time. Rates are high. The prices are out of control, and I think they're just going to keep going up. I really do.
Yeah, but and talking about affordability and things like that. I don't know if you've heard, but like there's a lot of institutionalized investors that are kind of buying up the market.
Yeah.
The three main guys in the industry that have apparently bought up everything.
Like
BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard.
Yeah.
The three.
Basically, the people that run the world.
They own everything.
The people that run the world, like the Illuminati.
And now it's. I just read an article recently. I haven't dug too deep into it, but Jeff Bezos is actually one of the major investors, along with like a couple other major CEOs. I don't want to quote him right now because I don't remember, but it was a couple other major CEOs. He's invested in a company now. It's going to be called Arrived. Arrived is going to be, from what I've read, is a company where you can invest as little as $100, and now you can invest into a piece of real estate that's owned by Arrived, which is this going to be this real estate company.
So it's shared ownership.
An institutional, but it's kind of like those three major companies. It's an institutionalized investor. So but you supposedly as the consumer get a kind of pitch in and own a little bit of it. But again, it's another institutionalized investor. They're buying up single family homes.
How is that different than like REITs?
It's actually
because that's what REITs are.
Essentially, it's going to be something very it is. It's going to be something very similar to that. But I just want to read off
real estate investment trust for the people that didn't know what REITs were.
Yeah, it's a little stat.
Yeah.
So in 2021, according to State Line, investors accounted for a quarter of all homes sold in 2021, and 28% of all homes in 2022. So they're saying that. As of 2022, the total share of investor-owned single-family homes was only about 5%, but investors could account for 40% of single-family homes by 2030, according to Yardi. Yardi is a big property management platform, probably the biggest in the world or the biggest that I know of. Mm-hmm. They also invest in single-family homes. So long story short...
Yeah.
There's going to be more institutionalized investors that are basically going to take away. The whole point I'm trying to make is that these institutionalized investors, they're taking away from like the mom and pop that are trying to actually buy a home for their families to raise kids.
Yeah.
And we're turning into, I don't want to become a renter nation. Yeah. We're already like California and New York are already renter states. Heavy renter states because of the affordability that we were just talking about. Yeah. I mean, what do you think about these institutionalized? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Again, this is the rich get richer type of thing because Bezos and
people that have unlimited.
But I think it's
like
big
money.
CEOs like I don't want to.
I think it's a bad thing, and I think you think the same thing. I think it is a bad thing. I think you're saying that percentage is like 40% is way too high.
No, they're saying
it could be up to 40% in investors.
They could account for 40%, but investors could account for 40% of single-family home market by 2030, according to Yardi.
Yeah, that's a lot, dude. That just means the few people that have all the money are basically just being able to just buy up everything, hang on to them, rent them out for astronomical rents. Because also, in an investor's world, the whole point is like, let's get rents as high as possible. That's the whole point essentially. And the value is based off of like how high the rents can get to at some point, depending on if it's multifamily or what. I don't think it's a good thing. I think it hurts the consumer, and like you said, it hurts people. Even like just like us that want to buy houses as primary and like have family and kids and stuff.
Right.
It's not good when companies like BlackRock and stuff are going around buying all. It's not like they're buying the commercial properties. They're buying like the SFRs, which everyone wants. Now they're pushing the condos. That's the thing. A lot of people I talk to and a lot of clients I work with, it's a lot of condos, apartments, townhouses. It's like rare to find a really good quality single family at a good price, and it starts to build basically a monopoly. They can create the supply and demand, and that's probably another reason why there's very little to like no inventory available. Because if a ton of homes are being bought by institutional investors that are fixing them up, renting them out, and basically borrowing and margining against them, they're not selling them necessarily. So at once, they can actually deflate the economy by listing everything, right? Kind of like how what happens with Bitcoin is like the price goes to a moon, then everyone just dumps to liquidate. They kind of control that power. It's not like our friends own 500 homes in Orange County. It's the institutional investors that own it. So if they want to, at one point, 20% of the properties could be listed on the same day. Wow, talk about what could happen there, So
do you think there should be rules in place?
Yeah, there should be regulations on
regulations.
The thing is you can't put rules on people like State Street and Vanguard and BlackRock. They make the rules. They're in cahoots. They pay off all the lobbyists. They pay off all the politicians. That's how this works. They run everything. They're like basically printing money themselves if they want to. Money's no object to them. It's about the control. It's about the power. And I also don't agree with people that buy up like astronomical amounts of land. Like you heard about how like Bill Gates owns like 80% of all the potato land in the US and stuff. He's basically monopolizing land. No. Yeah, because
I heard that he's
because look how valuable land is. Like the physical world is limited unless you totally believe in this metaverse and you're spending all this money in some fictional world. The physical world is limited and resources are limited. How valuable is it to own thousands and thousands of acres of land? You own it, like it's your parcel. You could do whatever you want. So yeah, he owns a ton of land, and a lot of it's probably bought under alias names or under trusts or things that people don't even know that's tied to him.
Of course.
But it's unbelievable. That's how monopolies form, and I think monopolies are a result of capitalism. But there should also be rules and regulations to avoid specific monopolies within capitalism.
No, 100%. I 100% agree with you. Now, I wanted to go on to really quickly a different topic to kind of end our segment here. I want to have a little bit of fun. Finally, a little fun topic. So I'm gonna give you a topic, and we're gonna guess. It's a real estate topic, So Realtor.com, they just released the top 10 U.S. metros that they predict for sales growth. So if you guys are in one of these, it's probably going to be, a good place to own a home. And if you're looking to own a home there, you might want to buy before it kind of goes up, basically. So in the United States.
Okay.
In the U.S., the top 10 U.S. metros in sales growth for 2024 as predicted by Realtor.com. So I want you to take
So what am I naming? Like cities in the U.S. that are
you're gonna name up? Like U.S. metros, like large U.S. areas basically in the United States that are predicted to see existing home sales growth. Basically, homes coming on homes that are going to be selling.
Yeah. Yeah. But like what
the percentage between 2023
what's directly qualifies as like a metro versus just like a traditional city, like
large metros like like San Francisco, like in the
because like I hear a lot like the Indianapolis is blowing up right now. Is that considered like
Indianapolis is a large metro?
Is it on that list?
Indianapolis.
It should be if it's
not on that
really
list. Yeah.
Oh man, because I know
this is Realtor.com.
From what I understand,
you guys can Google it.
From what I understand, Indianapolis specifically, the way the highway structures is, a ton of truck drivers and like exporting and importing and all that and stuff. Those shipping containers, they run through that city to connect like the west and the east, like crazy. So they all need places to like stay, live. It's blowing up like crazy. There's just a lot of money going to that area because of the way it's developed and everything. So that's why I hear there's a lot of money actually going into that state. But I mean,
a lot of these
Miami.
A lot of these areas you're gonna know.
Miami,
basically. No, the thing is with Miami, Miami's already blown up.
It is already blown
Miami
up.
was...
But it's going to keep blowing up. It's not on the list? It's not going to like...
It's not on the list. Actually, I could give you a hint that nothing in Florida is on this list.
Really? Yeah. So these are places that are going to continue...
There's actually a lot in California. So they're going to see...
Okay, San Diego?
San Diego is on the list.
Okay, San Diego.
San Diego's number 4.
4? I love San Diego. I need to buy
I just posted a video today. San Diego.
I'm gonna move to San Diego.
San Diego's.
If I was at an OC, I'd go to San Francisco or San Diego personally.
I would go to San Diego.
You like San Diego? Yeah.
I like San Diego.
I just love San Francisco. I'd get a nice house, not in the city, but on the outside. It's just beautiful.
San Diego. I love San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego. Sacramento.
No.
I heard Sacramento is doing a lot of development.
Yeah, my brother's in.
Yeah, it's actually great. For the people out there that want to invest, look into Sacramento market. I heard it's just blowing up. Like
there's actually look out of the top 10, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Half of them are California, and you just named one.
San Diego.
So
if I say Orange County, would that work as all encompassing, or do I need to say cities like Irvine?
You can say Orange County.
Is Orange County on the list?
Well, or the thing is, Orange County is part of the greater Los Angeles metropolitan area. So yeah, it's on the list.
Okay, that's on the list.
It's number 10.
Yeah, even though I feel like LA.
The LA
I thought prices in LA and stuff are starting to like depress a little bit.
The LA, Long Beach, Anaheim area is all kind of. Anaheim is it's all.
Okay, so I have 2 of them on there. The San Diego like county almost, and then
it's San Diego. The San Diego, Chula Vista, Carlsbad.
Wow.
Which is San Diego County, basically.
Chula Vista's, that's deep.
Yeah.
That's TJ.
It's border town, yeah. Border town.
Oh, man.
These areas, I'm very
There's
surprised.
got to be some in Texas. I think the Dallas-Fort Worth area or
It's
Austin.
funny that there's none in Texas.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, there's a lot of people moving to Austin.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I don't know where. I honestly don't know. Realtor.com. We're gonna fact check you on this because this is. I don't know. Some of this stuff is a little.
That's pretty crazy to me. Let me see if I can get a couple more. Dude, the thing is, they say like home prices in San Francisco area are going down.
Come on, California doesn't. It's literally every major.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So San Francisco.
No.
What? If it's every major.
Other than San Francisco and other than Sacramento.
Like that county area, no? Like where San Jose even is, that area? Okay.
Yeah,
what about the Inland Empire? Is that part of it?
Yes.
That's on the list?
Riverside, San Bernardino.
That makes sense because people tend to
Number 5
once
on the
the
list.
West gets saturated, people just go east.
You're missing I don't know if you're going to get these other 2.
In California?
You should, though.
Are these like Kern County type stuff you're saying, or is it like...
Kern County's on the list.
Kern County? Okay.
It's Bakersfield. Kern County.
Okay,
Kern County's on the list. Number 6.
Bakersfield, that's a drive.
Shout out Timmy. Timmy's out. My brother Timmy's out in Bakersfield.
All right, let's see. So I'm missing one? And you're not saying it's anywhere in the...
You're missing
It's got to be somewhere in NorCal area, no? Wow.
It is not in the Northern
Ventura
California.
County?
It's Ventura County.
Ventura County. So basically, that entire nucleus that's right around the Orange County area.
So I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that's Southern California.
Everybody's hating on Southern California. Realtor.com.
I'm starting to think maybe
California.
people from the north are just either shifting down or going to different states.
Or people are...
I don't think people from the Southern California, technically, I don't think they go up. I don't think they tend to go up. You don't really see people selling in San Diego, Orange County stuff, and then they start going up north as much as maybe people from north.
They would for affordability.
Go up north?
Yeah.
Well, it depends where up north. It depends where.
I mean, you're talking
you go to like Santa Clara, San Jose, it's unaffordable up there.
It's the same, basically, or roughly the same. I'm talking about Central.
Yeah.
Going to Central, and then north of Sacramento, it's really cheap.
Well, have you seen the houses you can buy in like Fresno? Oh my gosh, you know that area? I shouldn't say
really cheap. It's just it's much cheaper than it is in the LA Orange County metropolitan
much more
area.
affordable, yeah.
Look, some of these I'm gonna have to kind of these would take forever for you to go through. So
for sure.
I'm gonna just kind of.
But there's only how many? Oh, this you said top 20 list.
You've named all 5. California.
And there's none in Texas and none in Florida.
There's none in Texas. I'm just gonna give you the state, and you can. There's one area of New York.
It's got to be like.
It's an area of New York that's like
Like the Manhattan area?
That's not Manhattan.
It's on the island, though?
That area is not going to be, no. It's
upstate New York?
Basically, Rochester, New York.
Okay, upstate New York. So basically, because the island's already pumped, so they're saying upstate New York is
and then we're
thing.
from the West Coast, so you're not going to know a lot of this. There's 2 in Massachusetts.
Boston?
It's not.
Really?
No.
Wow, okay.
So we're going to go, it's Springfield, Mass.
Okay.
And Worcester.
Okay.
Massachusetts, Connecticut, it says. So there's that one.
Worcester.
One in Michigan, and not Detroit, obviously, but it's
Troy?
It's the Grand Rapids area.
Oh, okay.
And number 1 on the list, to all you people, there's going to be Toledo, Ohio is number 1 on the list.
Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah. So Realtor.com, I don't know about this list.
That's a wild list.
We're going to have to double check to fact check you guys.
Didn't you tell me once like Ohio is like one of the most densely populated states per capita?
No, I don't think so. Ohio
I thought there's like a lot
of
Ohio,
there's a lot of movement. I mean, there's a lot of movement. Ohio's very affordable. Actually, a property just came across my desk today in Ohio that was $115,000 for a property.
Like a single family?
Yeah. Yeah, so very, very affordable. Ohio's still very, very affordable. Actually, it was in Akron, the property that was sent to me today.
Shout out LeBron, what's up?
Yeah, it was a deal. You know, I got investors that send me properties now and then, but yeah. So yeah, anyway.
You're probably buying it from LeBron's portfolio. I feel like he owns every property in that city.
LeBron. Anyway, man, thank you so much. Arshawn Ashari.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on. This is episode number 1.
Yeah.
You made it through the whole thing, and you viewers, you guys made it through. It was long, so I apologize.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me. I hope to come back. Next time I come on, I'm gonna have some questions for you as well. You know, I want the viewers to get to know Andrew Yanni a little better. You know, our host, beloved host.
Yeah. Again, but anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you guys for listening to us. Talk on this episode. I hope to bring, new guests, good content out there for you in the future. And again, thank you so much, and like and subscribe for more content and more play. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.